Last year, American taxpayers sent $75 billion to Ukraine. The goal? Strangle Russia's economy, cut off the cash fueling Putin's military operation. It's not working. Right now, Russian oligarchs are moving billions through cryptocurrency, completely bypassing every sanction. When US federal agents coordinated a raid on a Moscow exchange, someone managed to move millions into untraceable accounts within hours. They knew it was coming. They had been preparing for a long time. But here's what should genuinely concern you. These oligarchs aren't just evading sanctions to help Putin. They're building personal exit funds, preparing for the day Putin's regime collapses. Because since Russia's invasion in February 2022, more than 75 high-ranking Russian figures have been permanently silenced under what Western investigators call mysterious circumstances. Falling from windows, found in garages, discovered on empty roads with hunting equipment nearby. Western analysts have coined a darkly sarcastic term for this phenomenon: sudden oligarch departure syndrome. This is the story they don't want you to see. The quiet power struggle inside the Kremlin right now, where Bitcoin becomes a tool, Dubai becomes a sanctuary. Garantex, remember that name? A cryptocurrency exchange headquartered in Moscow. Over 6 years, this single platform processed $96 billion in transactions. That's more than the entire annual GDP of Kenya. When US, German, and Finnish law enforcement coordinated a raid on March 6, 2025, something strange happened. Within hours of the domain seizure, blockchain analysts observed an Ethereum wallet linked to the exchange rapidly consolidating over 3,200 ETH, worth millions, and dumping it all into Tornado Cash, a crypto mixer designed to completely erase transaction history. This reveals a disturbing truth. This wasn't a panicked reaction. This was a meticulously prepared contingency plan. Someone had inside information about the raid. According to Lex Fisun, CEO of Global Ledger, even wealthy Russians trying to leave the country were using Garantex. When SWIFT is blocked and traditional banks refuse to serve you, cryptocurrency becomes your only exit route. Some skeptics will say, crypto doesn't have enough liquidity to absorb oligarch-level wealth. True, Chainalysis calculated the total tradable float of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Tether at only around $296 billion. But that analysis misses the key point. These oligarchs don't need to move everything. They need exit funds, enough to survive if they have to flee overnight. 20, 30, maybe 50 million per person. At that scale, crypto has more than enough liquidity. The obvious question, why are these oligarchs so terrified they need an escape plan? What exactly are they running from? Here, we observe a notable phenomenon affecting Russia's elite circles. Following the geopolitical shifts of 2022, a high turnover rate involving more than 75 senior officials and executives has been documented. 2025 saw further high-profile cases. In July, Andrei Badalov, a key executive at his residence. By September, Alexander Tiunin was discovered deceased during a private trip. Authorities closed both cases quickly, stating there was no external involvement. Although official explanations point to workplace stress or health factors, the pattern involves individuals with significant resources and protection. This sequence of events continues to draw attention from global observers attempting to understand the internal dynamics of these sectors. Prominent critics, such as Bill Browder, have long discussed the harsh mechanics of power within this system, often alluding to historical precedents where internal control is absolute. This perspective helps frame a question that is central to recent events. Is there correlation between the broader geopolitical conflict and the sudden loss of so many high-ranking officials? Some investigators suggest the timing is closely linked to financial vulnerability. Reports indicate that as international pressure mounted, internal accounting practices at major state-linked enterprises, including giants like Gazprom, faced unprecedented scrutiny. Consequently, executives with specific knowledge of complex financial networks may have found themselves in precarious positions. In this high-stakes environment, holding sensitive information can become a significant liability. Regional observers, including Mikhailo Podolyak, have noted that the expectation of loyalty is paramount, and the margin for error is non-existent. For the elite, The world is shrinking, with traditional hubs like London, Monaco, and Switzerland now off limits due to regulatory freezes and sanctions. They are left searching for new forms of security in an increasingly isolated landscape. Tax haven expert James Henry, who spent decades tracking illicit financial flows, compared modern Dubai to the cantina scene in Star Wars. You walk in and see kleptocrats on the right, oligarchs on the left, money launderers in the center, and in the background, dirty Russian commodities traders using the place to circumvent every sanction ever written. According to international investigations, at least 38 businessmen and officials with direct ties to Putin-owned luxury properties in Dubai, worth over $314 million combined. And that's only what investigators have traced. Why Dubai? 3 key factors. 1. Zero sanctions enforcement. The UAE has completely refused to implement any sanctions against Russia. While London freezes accounts, Monaco seizes yachts, even Switzerland cooperates with the West. Dubai keeps its doors wide open, no questions asked. 2. The reporting loophole. Dubai real estate is classified as a non-financial asset, falling completely outside the AEY, the automatic exchange of information system most developed countries use to track cross-border wealth movements. 3. Bitcoin acceptance. The 2 largest real estate developers in the UAE, Damac and Emaar, officially accept cryptocurrency payments. Think about what this means. Step 1. Move money from Moscow through Garantex. Step 2. Convert to Bitcoin. Step 3. Purchase a penthouse in Dubai Marina, paying directly in crypto. The money has completely vanished from the Western financial system. Real estate transactions using cryptocurrency in Dubai have surged 300% in the past year alone. That's not a market trend. That's a flood of money desperately rushing for the exit. A revealing detail. An investigation by a Russian opposition outlet, Kompromat, revealed that even high-ranking officials in Ramzan Kadyrov's inner circle, the Chechen leader who calls himself Putin's foot soldier, own millions in Dubai real estate through relatives and shell structures. If even Putin's supposedly most loyal allies are quietly preparing escape routes, what does that tell you about how stable they actually think this regime is? Washington isn't blind to what's happening. On August 14th, 2025, note the timing. Just one day before the Trump-Putin summit in Anchorage, the U.S. Treasury Department unleashed its largest sanctions package ever targeting Russia's cryptocurrency ecosystem. Garantex was redesignated on the sanctions blacklist with more severe charges. Grinex, the successor exchange created by former Garantex employees right after the original domain was seized, was also blacklisted within months. 3 senior Garantex executives are now internationally wanted with rewards totaling $6 million. But here's the brutal truth Lex Fissoon of Global Ledger pointed out. Sanctions work beautifully on paper. Enforcement is where everything falls apart. Government regulators operate on timescales of weeks or months, gathering evidence, legal review, multi-agency coordination. Cryptocurrency systems? They can completely reroute liquidity in hours. By October 2025, just 2 months after that massive sanctions announcement, Grinex's payment infrastructure was still operating normally, reserves intact. Money transfer routes wide open. This isn't the dramatic collapse Washington expected. This is evolution, a system learning from every enforcement action, adapting to every new sanction, getting more sophisticated every day. Bill Browder's assessment: this won't seriously deprive Putin of his resources unless we also sanction the 8 major refineries buying Russian oil in China and India. In other words, you can sanction Russian companies all day. But as long as there are major buyers willing to ignore those sanctions, the money keeps flowing into Kremlin coffers. In May 2024, Putin executed a major personnel reshuffle that shocked Kremlin watchers worldwide. Sergei Shoigu, defense minister for over a decade, once considered Putin's right-hand man, the guy who went on personal hunting trips with Putin, was pushed into the largely ceremonial role of Secretary of the Security Council. Nikolai Patrushev, a former FSB director, once one of the most feared and powerful men in Russia, was demoted to advisor on shipbuilding. From one of the most feared intelligence chiefs in Russian history to shipbuilding advisor. That's not a lateral move. That's calculated public humiliation. So who's rising in this brutal Game of Thrones? Candidate 1, Alexei Dumin, 52 years old, Putin's former personal bodyguard, currently Secretary of the State Council. He commanded the Special Operations Forces that seized Crimea in 2014 and organized the secret evacuation of former Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych. Years of protecting Putin daily built a level of personal trust very few Russians have achieved. Candidate 2, Dmitry Patrushev, 47 years old, Deputy Prime Minister, son of disgraced Nikolai Patrushev. Experts at Stanford's Hoover Institution say if something happened to Putin right now, they'd put their money on the younger Patrushev. Why? He's climbed the career ladder at dizzying speed, regularly attends Kremlin meetings with Putin directly, and his father, despite being sidelined, still possesses the most extensive power network and intelligence connections among the entire Russian elite. Candidate 3, Mikhail Mishustin, current Prime Minister. Under Russian Constitution, the Prime Minister automatically becomes acting president if something happens to Putin, an enormous constitutional advantage. But sources deep inside the Kremlin reveal Putin isn't ready to designate any official successor, especially not from competing factions. Naming an heir would immediately make that person a target for rivals and destabilize the careful power balance Putin has spent decades constructing. Bill Browder has warned, Putin lives in a world where losing power means losing all the money he's taken, going to prison for life, and meeting his end. This isn't ordinary politics where you lose an election and write memoirs. This is existential risk. That's exactly why no succession plan is being prepared openly. That's why oligarchs are secretly moving money by any means necessary. And that's why sudden oligarch departure syndrome continues claiming anyone who knows too much. Consider the reality for a member of Russia's economic elite in 2025. On paper, the wealth remains immense: real estate in Moscow, properties overlooking Hyde Park, and maritime assets worth fortunes. However, the access to these assets has fundamentally shifted. London has frozen accounts, residences are seized, and cooperation between Monaco and the EU means luxury vessels are detained upon approaching Western ports. Even the historically neutral banking vaults of Switzerland are now transparent to regulators. Beyond the financial restrictions, a starker reality looms. The community is frequently shaken by reports of colleagues and partners passing away under sudden, unclear circumstances. Mobility is restricted, with travel documents often under state review. Staying put carries its own risks, where falling out of favor can lead to abrupt and permanent consequences. In this climate, even private commentary on state policy is fraught with danger. The case of Pavel Antov is illustrative. A wealthy parliamentarian listed among the richest in 2019, Antov died in an incident at a hotel in India in December 2022. Just days prior, leaked messages surfaced in which he appeared to criticize the ongoing conflict. The proximity between the criticism and the incident was widely noted by observers. Then there is the matter of Yevgeny Prigozhin. Following the events of June 2023, his private aircraft crashed in Russian airspace 2 months later, resulting in the loss of all on board. Analysts interpreted this event not as a mere catastrophe, but as a definitive signal of centralized control, a demonstration that challenges to authority are met with decisive outcomes. This dynamic explains why cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are serving a distinct purpose for this demographic. It is not merely about bypassing banking restrictions. It is viewed as a form of essential liquidity, a decentralized asset stored independently of state-monitored jurisdictions, offers a fail-safe option in an environment where traditional security can vanish overnight. Let me bring this back to why Americans, why you watching right now, should care. We've spent $75 billion of taxpayer money trying to crush Russia's economy. Sanctions were supposed to strangle Putin's military machine. Instead, Russian oligarchs found a backdoor through cryptocurrency, using it not just to fund the ongoing conflict, but to prepare for Putin's eventual downfall. More than 75 officials have vanished from the scene since 2022. Dubai has become the sanctuary of last resort, crypto transactions up 300%, a financial system Western law cannot penetrate. America is fighting back, sanctions, arrests, international pressure. But the cryptocurrency ecosystem evolves faster than enforcement can keep up. We're always running one step behind, the deepest lesson. In a system where loyalty is measured by fear rather than genuine allegiance, even the most faithful servants will eventually turn when they smell vulnerability. Bill Browder says Putin lives in a world where losing power means losing everything. But here's what most people miss. That same existential trap applies to every oligarch surrounding him. They're all prisoners of a system with no safe exit for anyone. Bitcoin, cold wallets, Dubai, these aren't just financial tools or investment strategies. They're life rafts on a sinking ship. Emergency exits in a burning building. The question isn't whether Putin will eventually fall. The question is, when that day comes, who takes control of 6,000 strategic warheads? And what happens to the entire world? Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me, who do you think takes over when the time finally comes? Du Min, the former bodyguard with military credentials. The younger Patrushev, with his rapid rise and his father's intelligence networks. Mishustin, with his constitutional advantage as prime minister. Or someone we don't even know about yet, hiding in the shadows, waiting for the right moment? If this video opened your eyes to what's really happening behind the Kremlin's curtain, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. Share this with someone who needs to understand what's actually going on, because your tax dollars are funding this fight, and you deserve to know that right now, we're losing it.